Want to trade with Rithika? Join Chase at www.laductrading.com/chase.
Welcome back. So last week we saw some volatility in the market. If you go to the daily chart, you'll be able to see that we pretty much went sideways for a couple of days. Then we had this big shoot up in the market, which we captured in the chase trade notification. You can see here we pretty much had a burst of volume and we went up to test higher and then we rejected and came back down. So now what next in the market? If I were to draw a channel, you can see here pretty much the top of the channel is at about, I would say, 5582. So we could have some more room to the upside here before we come back down. I would say we would go to a bigger picture. You can see the reason we bounced is I go to the weekly chart. You'll be able to see that this was the previous level of support. So we bounced off of that level, and you can see here this is a big weekly engulfing. So that is a good start. The problem is it needs to follow through. So there is a scenario where we are kind of in that ABC. We would go up, finish that B wave, find resistance here, and then you would, kind of come down to finish out that C wave before we bounce. So I mean, in either scenario, I still expect us to make a new high in time. It's just a matter of when we would go up to make that high. So I'm still, till we get above this 5800, I'm not really bullish for a new high yet, but this is a good weekly engulfing. It's just we could get trapped. We could have a bullish push, but we could reject that resistance and come right back down into that 4800 level. So you got to be watchful for that. So you go to QQQ as well. You can see that we did have a good bullish engulfing off the bottom of this channel, but as I mentioned on SPY, the same kind of exists on QQQ as well. I would say that we would ideally need to get above this 475 480 level. Want to move higher, it's just that we could go up for an ABC and come down to finish off the C wave. So that's the reason ideally 485 490, it would need to break over that before I start looking at more bullish outcomes. For now, I do see an oversold bounce that potentially gets rejected to come down lower. You look at the dollar, we discussed it coming down to this 99 level. We've come down, so I mean we can have that oversold bounce, but we could kind of be in for more selling. You can see here, I go to the weekly chart on the dollar, you can see the bottom of the channel is at about for 97.8. So be careful, any bounce could reject. We could still continue to move lower, but that was a beautiful move on the dollar. And the yields, you can see here, we had a massive bounce off the support level, but we are still rejecting resistance. So we would need to break over this 4.7. If we break that, then we're very much gonna have a bull flag breakout to the upside. On the yields, 4.5 or 4.7 is important. They will kind of decide which way the market kind of swings. So keep an eye on whether we break out or not on the yields. And last but not the yields, look at the wick. We did kind of end up going left 56, came down, we rejected. So now I go to the weekly chart. On the wicks, you'll be able to see that this is big weekly resistance. We try to break above, we failed, and we're opening lower. So this is not a good sign, but you can see here we have ideally not been here in the past. So as long as Wix is above this $30 level, the market is still at risk and we could continue to have some volatility in the market. But if we start to break below 30, then the market could get buying and we could start to see some momentum. So keep an eye on that. With all that being said, let's look at this week's watch list. So as I mentioned, I do see a bounce. I do think that we could potentially bounce up into that 280 to 90, maybe on Tesla, but I do think any bounce gets rejected and we will. You can see here, this is the channel we broke out of. So we will come back to test that 190, 180 on Tesla eventually. So that's why I think that any bounce Tesla has will get rejected to come down lower. So I am watching for Tesla to fail 250 eventually before we come to the downside. So that's why I have Tesla on this week's watch list. Boeing, on the other hand, you can see that we are on a different longer term channel. So that's the reason if I were kind of wave Boeing, I would make this my 1, 2. I would make this my 3, my 4, and my 5. So we are ideally, given that we have been in a downtrend since December of last year, we could be popping up to the top of that channel, and we are opening kind of above that level this morning. So as long as we hold over this 157, 158 on Boeing, we should at minimum be able to push into that 163, 165 level. So keep an eye on Boeing, right? If the market starts to get bullish, we can see a push in Boeing. Silver, on the other hand, kind of came back to the bottom of a long-term channel. We bounced, so I'm mean, given that it is kind of lagging gold, we should keep an eye on this. As long as we break over this 29.5, it should have a mega push in silver, so keep an eye on that. We could continue moving to the upside. And last but not the least, on Microsoft as well, you can see here, this is the long-term channel. So we are trying to break the downtrend, I would say. So let's see if it can hold above. We did kind of bounce off the bottom of this channel, which again, if I go to the weekly chart on Microsoft, you'll be able to see that this is a long-term channel. That's the reason we had a super bullish engulfing candle. So as I mentioned, this is a really bullish candle, and generally, if we follow through on such candles, we can have more upside, but we need to see the follow through. You can see here, if I top to the bottom of this, we are yet to even go to the 0.5. So I would say ideally we break over 400, 405, then we could be on a start of a new bullish path, but otherwise we could get rejected to move up and come back to the downside. So keep an eye on that. I still think we could see some weakness in the market. So that's the reason. Even SPY, if I zoom out, you'll be able to see that this is a long-term channel that we bounced into, but you can see here that we haven't broken the downtrend. So yeah, we can, kind of bounce into that 550, but we reject that. We're going to, come right back down to that 500 area. So keep an eye on that. Usually we haven't really broken the channel. We need to come break the channel, make a new high, and only then the topping pattern is in process. So I still think be in an ABC. So let's see how that goes. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Join Chase to trade with Rithika and other experts. Subscribe to LaDuc Trading YouTube channel for more Wolf's weekly wave list videos and other content.